Toboso Yana is the creator of Twisted Wonderland. In this 2023 interview from the Apple Store, she explains the initial process, creating the game and early ideas. I have a manga series, Black Butler, that is still ongoing, so I had been turning down offers for long-term projects. But then I heard about this, and I love Disney's works and their characters, so I said I'd do it without a moment's hesitation. Before I even saw it, my editor told me that I would be taking this one on for sure, like a line straight out of a Western TV show, and he was absolutely right. At that time, however, the only thing that had been decided was that it would be a game themed around Disney villains. We started working with Aniplex without knowing what it was we were actually going to make. Initially we thought, well, the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Disney is Hollywood, so our initial proposal was that the characters were young actors performing the different Disney IPs in a musical theater format. That was rejected. Disney has a lot of rules to ensure that their works are accessible to everyone regardless of age or gender, and a lot of our other proposals after the training up actors for the theater idea were also turned down. After that we came up with the idea of setting the game in a school, as a genre that is gaining recognition both in Japan and abroad. Working on my manga, I would often submit different ideas over and over again until I received an okay, and then I would work closely with my editor to brush up on what had been approved. I think those experiences really came in handy. Personally, I love constraints and aiming to do the best I possibly can when surrounded by all the hurdles and decisions that come with game production. In the pre-development stages, we were all communicating weekly with one another as I drew ideas for the rhythmic games, user interfaces, and battle scenes. I think a big part of the fact that we were able to release Twist at all was that we were able to break through the parts of the game that we just couldn't imagine or verbalize using the power of illustration. In the main story you get to know 7 dormitories and their unique students. You learn about the different sides to each of these characters, and, over time, the weaknesses and problems of these spiteful students who all seem to hate each other. The story and the characters were created almost simultaneously. The story itself is an homage to the fates suffered by the different Disney villains, but when fitting the characters into the story, they shouldn't be on a radically more developed stage than the story or vice versa. The full main plot that I was to share with Disney seemed linear and uninteresting, so I submitted character details and subplots at the same time. I received very thorough checks and made corrections to what was returned to me to be resubmitted in a process that took about a year before I was really able to start writing the scenario for the game in earnest. And since Disney's works are universal stories, villain underlings are often a bit comical and subservient to their villain, so there was some difficulty coming up with multiple, individual characters based on them. For example, coming up with 4 different students based on the card soldiers from Alice in Wonderland, and creating a character based entirely on the poison apple from Snow White was not easy. Basically, I would put myself in the position of a card soldier and think about how the poison apple must have felt, then I wrote that down and built upon it. There is no way that apple wanted to become poisonous, it was forced into those circumstances against its will by the queen just because it was the most appetizing option. Maybe that is what its thoughts would have been. Etc.